Friends and colleagues are remembering Wisconsin state archaeologist as an explorer who brought history to everybody. Dr. Jim Skibo died after he was pulled from Lake Mendota last Friday. Skibo led the archaeology unit at the Wisconsin Historical Society. He was part of the team that pulled that ancient canoe from Lake Mendota last year. Colleagues say he didn't just study archaeology, he brought it to the people.
As an archaeologist and anthropologist that was just loved to explore, loved people, loved to tell stories, he loved to actually do the actual work with people and actually listen and mentor.
Historical Society Director Christian Overland says Skibo's death means the loss of a great colleague, friend, educator, and visionary.